Hey everybody, Sean Holsinger here from HolsingersFlyShop.com. Bringing you another fly time video today. Today it's a jig fly, European style fly, and it's a streamer actually. If you might have seen it already, Lance Egan did this fly, but I'm on a smallmouth kick right now, and that's what I'm tying them for. Lance uses them for trout a lot, and he was actually showed this by Pat Weiss. And Pat is a killer fisherman, and if you head over to our Bugs and Beard podcast page, you can listen to a podcast we did with with Pat, and Pat gets really in depth into some fishing and Euro nymph and competition fishing, so it's a really cool podcast to listen to. Pat's an incredible fisherman, and he's the one that put Lance onto this fly. So this is a simple fly, and it catches trout. We were actually, here's a picture of a client I had out this week, and we did well. We caught a couple fish this size on it, and it worked great for trout. And last week, not Pat Weiss, but Pat from the podcast, we were out fishing these for smallmouth, and we were just crushing the smallmouth with them. The color that I'm going to tie it in today is the color that we did real well on the smallmouth with. And it is olive tail with a brown body. And I'm not really sure, but it looks a lot like the smaller smallmouth that we were catching. So I think it may be like a cannibalistic reaction that they're having towards this little streamer fly. But with the smallmouth, we're Euro nymphing it. We're casting it upstream, bouncing it off the bottom, dredging it across the bottom. And we're also swinging it and twitching it, just whatever. You know, sometimes they want it Euro nymph, sometimes they want it swung. So whatever, just have fun and do whatever you like to do. But trust me, it works Euro nymphing on smallmouth. I'm going to show you the fly that we're going to tie in the video today first, the material list to tie it, and then before I get into tying it, I'm going to show you a couple other popular colors that I like to tie it and fish it in. So here you go. Here's the material list and how to tie it. Okay, here you see the fly in the vise. Let's get into tying it now. It's a really easy one. And this is very simple. This is the color I've been fishing at the most for smallmouth. And as you can see, it almost has that smallmouth color to it. So let's put the hook in the vise and get started here. And for a hook, what we're going to be using is the Holsinger's Fly Shop Jig Hook in a size 10. We'll get focused in there. And for a bead, we're using the 3.8 millimeter slotted tungsten bead. This one happens to be nickel. I like using nickel, and I also like to match up to the body color too. Like if I'm tying a black one, a lot of times I'll use a black bead or something like that. Sometimes I like the pink one. Just get fancy, mess around with it, see what you like there. Now, this is a slotted bead, and the bead on this these Nature Spirit beads has a little bit of an extra wide gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to fill this up with thread so it locks in position. And you can see how it's nice and straight there on that hook. Runs parallel with the hook shank. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause my hook to ride like this in the water, which will give me a better hook set in that upper lip, which is what I want. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a Marabou feather. And I'm going to pick one out of my clump here. And I tie this slightly different than Pat likes to tie his, or Lance likes to tie his, I should say. Lance, what he'll do is he'll take the feather and he'll strip the side of it off. And he'll use these feathers down in here. What I like to do is I'll take and I'll strip both sides back so I pull out just the tip. And I'll get 2 flies out of 1 feather here. So I'll get about halfway, and there I'll have all tip feathers, and I'm going to cut that off. Okay, so now I have, here's one clump of tail, and then the other one is, you see the main feather shaft here. I just pull all of these tight, and there's a clump of tail. Now, Pat likes to tie with this inner part of the feather here, this real buggy inner part. I, for some reason, don't. I don't know. Personal preference. I never really tied with that part of the feather, so I don't like the looks of it. But that's the way they fish it, and they do real well. This is the way I fish it, and I do well. So, whatever your choice is. Now, the tail length here, I want a little longer than I wanted there, so we're going to shorten that. I want about twice the length of the body. I want a long tail on this. That was something that was hard for me to understand and overcome in the beginning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it. You see how I wrapped it around the bend, where it goes down over the bend a little bit. And by doing that, it will cause these feathers to turn in there less, and it'll ride truer, and the tail will work a lot nicer. So we're just going to cover this up with thread then. And that's all that's to our tail. Now, if you get it a little bit long, you can always take and pinch them off with your fingers, pull them off with your fingers. It works just fine that way. I just like to tie it with the tips. It just looks more the way it should be, I guess. So, next thing we're going to do, and last thing we're going to do, is we're going to use our UV polar chenille. For this smallmouth pattern, what I like to use is UV polar chenille in UV brown, medium I should say, medium UV polar chenille, and I'm just going to tie it on up by the bead, and then wrap it back to the tail, and I like to wrap it back up to the head, and I'm going to take advantage of my rotary vise here. Whoops, busted my thread, so start that back on here. And when I do my rotary vise, what I like to do is I like to just tie one quick half hitch in there, and then I'll put my thread up over my holder there, and then with this rotary vise I can wind this up real quickly. So that's what's great about this fly. I can tie it real quick, get it nice and buggy, and hammer a bunch of them out. So I'm going to do about 3 wraps here, cut my polar chenille off, and then do a wet finish. So try to push these back out of the way, and we'll do a wet finish. Okay, that's all that's to that. Very, very simple fly, which you can tie a whole bunch of real quick and be on the water fishing. Okay, you saw there, it's a simple fly to tie. Very easy, only, 4 pieces of material. Your hook, your thread, well, 5. Your thread, your bead, and your body and your tail. So it's really easy to tie. You can whip these things out. I believe it was actually one of the ways they got into using this was using it as a lake fly. They do real well with them as a lake fly, and we actually fished them in a pond that's stocked for trout here close to the shop. There's a pond with some big ones in, and it's a popular fly for that. We tease a lot of trout with that, and that big long tail just has tons of action, and it just really triggers the fish, I think. So have fun tying it. Oh, and we actually did real well this spring even on it on Kettle Creek. This was one of the flies in one evening. Ran into guys, they were swinging green woolly buggers. This is what we had. We started swinging them, and Colton and I just crushed the trout on this. So, have a selection of them because they really, really work, and they work on different times of the year too. Not just summertime for smallmouth and trout. Muddy water, go darker, same thing as always. Clear water, try your minnow imitations and stuff. Anyway, have fun tying it, have fun fishing it. Until next week, you get over to our website, you can find all the material to tie it at holsingersflyshop.com. And thanks for watching, everybody. Keep coming back and subscribe to our channel. I'm Sean Holsinger.